Welcome to today's CRM Magazine Roundtable web event, brought to you by IntelliResponse, Nice Systems, and Transversal. I'm David Myron, Editorial Director of CRM Magazine, and I'll be the moderator for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled, Why You Can't Ignore Omnichannel Web Self-Service. Now to introduce our speakers for today's event. Tim Peters is the Director of Marketing at IntelliResponse. Robert Francis is the Solutions Architect for Customer Engagement Solutions at Nice Systems, Inc. And Chris Hall is the Chief Marketing Officer at Transversal. Now let's pass the event over to our next presenter, Chris Hall, Chief Marketing Officer at Transversal. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, David, and welcome to everyone still on the webinar here. My name is Chris Hall, Chief Marketing Officer for Transversal, and I have a unique privilege to kind of introduce you to a really great brand that we do here at Transversal, one of the leading enterprise knowledge providers for the cloud. I think the great thing about this evening's or this morning's roundtable, depending upon where you're located in the U.S., is we get some great content and different approaches on how to go about this. Many of you may have not heard of the Transversal brand, so I thought I'd give you a little intro, but a real simple intro. There's nothing worse to us as a web self-service provider of your customers saying that good help is hard to find. And keeping it real simple, at Transversal, we believe there is a more innovative way for people to get good help. Understanding that the topic of our discussion is omnichannel web self-service, you can only imagine providing good help consistently in an omnichannel world. To say the word challenging is probably the understatement word used in this particular webinar today. At Transversal, we keep it real simple. We're not a CRM provider. We're not a channel provider. We are a knowledge solutions provider, and our passion is to make it extremely easy for businesses to connect people to knowledge. But what I found pretty compelling, and we've seen a lot of market stats tonight, and I'll just show you a few. But for me, what was pretty compelling, and I watch this every year, Accenture puts out a really great report called their Global Pulse Survey. And there were some pretty interesting statistics that I haven't seen before from Accenture. And if you happen to download it, the whole premise of the report's all about the switching economy. I think those of us on the phone that are in the industries that are high churn, such as telecommunications, financial services, and insurance, you understand that. And the switching economy had some really interesting statistics, not only for North America, but also for Europe and the UK and Asia Pacific. But a couple takeaways I thought were real interesting to me and relevant to our topic tonight was what they were saying, the two stats that I have here, and several to the right. But first stat I want to talk about is the number of channels customers, 65% of customers say they use 6 or more channels when prospecting with an organization. But they find it extremely frustrating when they're presented different information or given different answers across the different channels that exist. Again, it's all about consistency and kind of getting the right answer. But even more so than that, that the customers were extremely mobile. 45% of the customers surveyed said offering a better service option via mobile device would have made their difference in the decision to not switch service suppliers. If that wasn't compelling enough from a mobile perspective, the next two will grab you a bit. Last year, the number of mobile connected devices exceeded the number of people on Earth. Now, kind of not fair, because I'm sure all of us on the phone here, on the WebEx, or my colleagues on the phone, we all have a couple of devices to begin with. But if that one doesn't get you, next year, more than a quarter of the world's population will be using smartphones. And for many, it's their only device to access customer service or access any information from a web self-service perspective. And we're seeing that more and more with satellite companies where their employees need information, but they only have, because they're at a kiosk or at a store, access to a mobile tablet. So you can guess that the rest of my talk is going to be all about how to make smartphones even smarter. And I'm going to be showing you quite a bit of demo, so hang on with me. So you'll be seeing a bit of product along with some what I consider point of view from Transversal's standpoint. So if I keep it really simple for you, what we went after for the mobile web self-service environment was to make it extremely easy to deploy. We didn't want our web self-service customers to have an entirely different deployment if it went onto a tablet, a mobile phone. So we do leverage some great responsive web design technologies. But we take it beyond responsive design. We want to make it extremely simple to use. If smartphones, the application, or finding the information on the phone isn't simple to use, they'll just go somewhere else, as my colleagues talked about earlier. So I want to talk to you about the way we've made a very intuitive mobile experience for our web self-service customers. And then lastly, I'll talk about what does it mean to be always there. How do you then take a bank or an insurance application, a mobile app, and then embed knowledge into that? And those are the three aspects I'm not only going to talk about, but give you kind of a sneak peek from a demo perspective. So the first aspect on how to make it easy to deploy, it's all about the technology of leveraging responsive web design. Leveraging technologies and techniques that are designed and developed to adjust the browser to any device it sees or any device it's being accessed by. Also, all of the optimized text, graphics, and navigation for mobile use. And there's a lot that we do not only in the design, but in the content structure to ensure that this will render in a device-independent way. Third, enhance the user experience. Make it really simple. That responsive web design, I think you'll see visually when I see it on the two devices, it's a great user experience with just one deployment of our solution. It simplifies your management, and it really gives you zero additional code to go from web to mobile. So with that, it's going to be a screen click, so it's not going to be a live demo from this standpoint. We're going to keep it low tech, but I think you'll get the visual impact here. Here's a picture of one of our customers. It's the BBC in the UK, very similar to a Comcast or a Cox or Time Warner in the US. They actually have what they call catch-up service. I want to watch the weekend of Downton Abbey, or I want to watch a catch-up game of football game or NFL sports. All that information's here. It's their iPlayer help, so you can imagine their iPlayer help is probably going to be used on a lot of tablets, so they want to make sure that their web service, whether it's served up on a laptop, on a tower, or on a mobile device, the experience is really good. So I'm just going to take the widescreen aspect of either a Safari or Windows Explorer browser and just click once and shrink it down. So again, the same interface, but you're seeing the menuing structure shifting to the left a little bit. This is about half screen size. It would probably be the size of an iPad or a tablet. But if I shrunk it down one more time, I'm now probably at a mini tablet, or maybe the iPhone 6 Plus, which is basically almost a mini tablet at this point. And again, you're going to notice the icons, the graphical icons got a bit smaller. They automatically dynamically adjusted and shifted according to the frame that they were in. One last shift, and you'll notice now I'm down to a smartphone type device. The icons are gone, but I have kind of a menu option I can choose there, and everything fits dynamically in one device. Okay, but let me show you this from a side-by-side perspective. So that same implementation, both on an iPhone as well as on a MacBook Pro. Starting off at the main screen, or the login screen, or just the regular help screen, I'm now going to switch to a search screen. So I'm going to show you kind of a dual device, a dual system here. So now at this point, as a user, I'm typing in video problems with my Air, or video problems with my iPad, because the iPlayer doesn't seem to be working correctly. And as I search in Transversal, our type-ahead technology starts to predict what you might be looking for. So in both cases, if it's big enough, you'll see the purple highlight is what I'm going to be clicking on next to bring you to a knowledge solution. So I'm now in one of the knowledge solutions that BBC posts in regards to problems with problems with playback on the iPad app. On the left-hand side, you're going to see from a screen perspective, I still see my menuing, and I also see some related inquiries at the bottom. On the right-hand side, a very nice interface, but I have to scroll a little bit, but it's still a very, very good user experience from that standpoint. If I were to go back to the beginning and give you an idea how I would navigate via category, I didn't want to search, but I want to actually search by device. You're seeing on the left-hand side, it's kind of iconic, and on the right-hand side, I have to pop up a menu and scroll down to the right device. As I search for device, I might then limit what they might want to see by platform. So I want to see by iPad, I want to see by Apple, and then once I drill down one more time, I'm then searching by category. At this point, once I have my category, I would be drilling into a knowledge solutions card and getting my final answer. So that's kind of what it looked like from a side-by-side perspective, again, with zero additional code, but that was pretty simplistically clicked through. What if I don't care about that, but I do want my customers to be able to access information regardless of where it might be on my website? So I think some talked about earlier, and it might have been Robert's statistics, or if it's Tim's, I apologize, said that most people start from the web. Well, we kind of know that too, so we want to make sure not only is it simple to use, but the knowledge our customers serve up is really simple to find. So we've created what we call a very intuitive mobile experience. Some best practices and techniques to optimize mobile journeys, but we also know that the knowledge base that we want to serve up, if customers want to use a browser or a Google or a Siri or an Android interface to voice to text, let's make sure that the knowledge base that we have is optimized for search engine optimization so they can easily go through and find our information. Because we are using a semantic search to predict information from the customer as well. All of our stuff is natural language and voice enabled. What that means for our customers is in a mobile embedded application, we could pop up a text-to-speech and not have a person type in information to find our information. What I'm also going to show you is we're predicting that customers are not just ask one question, and we kind of understand that they're going to ask multiple. So when I go through my demonstration, you're going to see we're predicting that once I answered one question, you're probably going to have another. We call those smart links. I think the key thing about that is we're not requiring that you have as much administrative knowledge of what customers always click on. We're doing that for you. We have the intuitive technologies to understand what people ask first, what people ask second, and I'll kind of give you a visual cue as to how that shows up. But it's done automatically by our transversal knowledge engine. And then lastly, you'll see some improved usability and findability from a transversal standpoint. So if I'm on a mobile device and I had a question, one of our customers here in the UK is one of the major retailers. And for a lot of retailers, customers need to know, can you get this from a next day delivery standpoint? So what I'm going to do is hold down my iPhone button and just ask Siri, can I get next day delivery with Marks & Spencer? In a real-time environment, Siri pops up. I found this on the web for you. You're going to notice I'm just using native applications that are on the iPhone, but what it's doing, searching Google, is it's finding the knowledge-based solutions in the Marks & Spencer transversal solution, and the top 3 links are exactly what we're serving up from the standpoint of making it really easy. I see that the very top one is exactly, can I get next day delivery? And I'm going to drill into that, which will take me to Marks & Spencer's responsive site showing me the knowledge solution that exists, can I get next day delivery? And if I scroll down, you'll see the answer that's right there. Now, in this case, the easiest way for me is just to click the thumbs up. It's not a simple rating. We're not asking for comments. We're just asking you to give a thumbs up. And when you give the thumbs up, we're taking you now from a navigation to it's called related questions. We call those smart links. Those are, again, dynamically built by Transversal to predict what your next question might be. And if you look through, I'm a guy that travels all the time. Even though I order stuff next day delivery, better make sure I'm home. So if you look pretty closely, what happens if I'm out when you deliver it? Yeah, I probably want to drill on that too. Again, just takes me through a very natural progression of a very great mobile user experience from a simplistic standpoint of how I could use the solution. What does it look like if I wanted to search? Up comes the search box. This could be, if it were an application, being text-to-speech, but in this case, I'm just going to type in a question. It might be, what's your charge, or do you have this in my particular area code? And I think that's what I do type in here. Do you deliver to my zip code, which is probably a simple question to kind of look for. And you'll notice after I search go, the information comes right up. So I kind of wanted to show you that I didn't have to navigate on my iPhone to a browser. I just held Siri down. I instantly kind of asked what my question was, and it was the very intuitive way for me to find the information of what I was looking for from a mobile web self-service experience. Before I get into the last presentation, a bit more demographic, but this one was pretty interesting when I saw Gartner publish it. Gartner estimates that there will be 70 billion mobile application downloads annually but less than 5% of them will be supported by contextual knowledge. And we know this quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of us have, whether it's our banking app, whether it's our insurance app, any app that we might have, our frequent flyer app, all of that's on our mobile phone. None of that at this point probably has any contextual knowledge to it, and I probably end up leaving that device going to a web browser to find what I need. According to Gartner, the lack of contextual knowledge support in mobile applications will lower customer satisfaction, really undermining the whole enterprise mobile strategy. So you can guess the next part of my speech will be about always there. What does it look like for a help transaction or a knowledge transaction to be, or a knowledge solution to be plugged in to a mobile device? We have mobile app APIs to plug knowledge into the mobile applications that exist. We leverage all the type-ahead semantic search technologies in that application. In this case, it's more or less probably going to be in-app refined knowledge. The applications that you might have for XYZ insurance claims app might be totally different than the web self-service in the web. The nice part about it is it can be all one knowledge base, but permissioned by particular device channel you might go to. Then Smart Link responsive navigation is in there as well. And then you're going to also see, if I'm on the phone and I want to pop up a phone dialer or text-to-speech, that should be available to me as well. So we're on the home stretch. Bear with me, please, and I'll kind of take you through kind of the last animated presentation of what does it look like, a knowledge solution or web self-service inside a mobile application. So there's several mobile applications I have on my phone here. I'm going to open up a credit card application for a card servicing app. Obviously, I'm going to authenticate and log in through the application itself. And then once I'm in, if I swipe my home screen off to the right, you're going to see I have multiple menu structures. We're sitting our questions, frequently asked questions, right towards the bottom. And when you click on that particular bottom portion, you will notice up comes the transversal knowledge solution inside the mobile application. We're starting off, obviously, in a simple way, what the most commonly asked questions are. These are not static. They're dynamically generated by Transversal based upon the usage of customers in the knowledge base, so they are truly the most commonly asked questions. But if you did want to kind of navigate on your own saying, I don't see what I want here, I might want to click on a category list, of which you'll see a category list in front of you from that standpoint. If I were to drill into, or even ask at this point, let's say I want to type a search, this is where inside a mobile app you'd want to pop up a voice API if you wanted to. In the case of our instance here, we don't have it voice enabled, so I'm going to type in quickest way. And as you're seeing as I type, because I'm a horrible typer on a keyboard to begin with, let alone put me on a mobile device. Since the BlackBerry days, I've got terrible at iPhone typing. So the quicker the solution, the device can give me the answer, the better. You're going to notice as I finish my query, quickest way to make a payment, the answer totally changes, the recommendations, without even having to click go. In this case, I notice that I do want to know how long does it take to process a payment in my credit card application, and I can click on that without even finishing my search. When I bring up, that's how the information shows in the browser. Obviously, we have the 5-star rating here versus a thumbs up, thumbs down. There's more interesting dynamics or analytics that our banking customer wants here. And again, once I rate it, it automatically takes me to what I consider related questions or the smart links that Transversal provides for you. If I go back to the top and start typing one more, are my orders protected? Again, you're going to see some of the intuitive search that we're doing on understanding what you might mean by the question that you've asked. And drilling in one more time, you'll see I get what is purchase delivery protection from a credit card standpoint. And the nice part about that, sorry, I want to just kind of finish off here. You're going to notice I'm now in-app mobile knowledge because I have the ability to pop up a dialer that alternatively you could call us in the instance that, yes, we do provide purchase delivery protection. I doubt very much you're probably going to want to go in here. You're not going to know what your transaction was from a credit card perspective. Chances are you're going to want to call us to say, hey, I think I've got some fraudulent behavior. And when I click on that particular knowledge, it basically pops up the phone dialer to really kind of integrate the web self-service solution, maybe to a phone. In this case, it does make sense to kind of escalate to a phone from that perspective. And with that, I want to turn that back to David, but I hope you saw something interesting, something unique in regards to a mobile self-service, and if you have any more information, I'd ask you all to visit us on the web at www.transversal.com. And David, back over to you.
So now, without further ado, let me pass the event over to our first presenter, Tim Peters, Director of Marketing at IntelliResponse. Welcome to the broadcast, Tim.
Hi, David. Thanks very much. It's a really important topic, and I'm happy to be here, and I think it's going to be very informative. Looking forward to hearing from my fellow panelists as well. So let me jump right into everything. So some quick background on IntelliResponse. We're a leading provider of virtual agent technology. What enterprise virtual agents do is allow customers to ask questions in natural language and get accurate answers in return, generally in the 85 to 90% range. This has many benefits. It reduces customer effort, improves the customer experience, and can reduce costs for organizations as well when companies are allowed to when customers can self-serve and they don't have to escalate into channels that are more expensive, such as the phone, email. We have over 450 deployments worldwide across a variety of industries, such as banking, utilities, telecom, travel, and retail. So digital self-service, it's more important than ever. And what I want to do is see a little bit by sharing some of our most recent research that we've dived into in terms of consumer preference. So what we did was a Google survey where we polled 1,000 US-based consumers, and what I want to do is share the results of that, just to again communicate the importance of digital self-service as a channel and virtual agents. So we can see here that customers are looking to the web first when they're looking for information on a product or service versus other channels. So having that experience correct on the web is just absolutely vital. Another question we ask is, where was the first place you go for an answer for a customer support question? And you can see here again that nearly 60% are going directly to the web first over channel like phone or email or going in directly to a store. And there's dire consequence if you don't get that right. If folks are unable to find correct answers on your website, 75% will escalate to those more expensive channels. And even worse than that is 25% will abandon their purchase altogether and move on to, say, a competitor and try and conduct their business there. So let's take a look now at digital self-service today and look at that status quo. And what the challenge is that organizations these days are still overemphasizing the importance of phone support, where, based on research that I just shared, consumers these days are primarily looking to the web and to self-service first, and there's just not the emphasis that needs to be placed on those digital channels on the web and on self-service. Organizations are still primarily focusing on phone support and traditional old school channels. And what happens when customers do go to the web? It's not a very pleasant experience. We did some research looking at the Deloitte Technology Fast 500 companies to get an idea of the type of support that was being provided on the web. And it's a lot of old school channels. For example, you can see across the top of the slide here, organizations are providing site search, which provides a horrific long list of results that make it very difficult for consumers to sort through. They're providing customer portals, which in some cases can be effective, but again, aren't providing those instant answers that the majority of consumers are looking for. And also quite popular is the Contact Us form, where again, consumers aren't able to get that instant answer. They're submitting a form and hear back anywhere from 2 to 24 hours later, if they're lucky, from the organization they're trying to reach. None of these channels are delivering that quick and accurate answers that consumers now demand. And the final piece of research I wanted to share, we had polled customer experience executives. This was some work done by Esteban Kolsky, leading CRM analyst. And what we do find is that there is an awareness that the concept of self-service is starting to bubble to the top, and organizations need to know they need to improve. They're looking to learn more and try and optimize their digital channels. But the daunting question is, how do we get there? How do we modernize our omnichannel experience to support self-service? Our focus at IntelliResponse with our virtual agent technology is understanding that intent behind customer questions. Virtual agents use natural language processing and machine learning to understand those customer questions and map those to the correct answer they're looking for. Virtual agents can be deployed across a channel environment from web to mobile, embedded into social media such as Facebook, corporate pages, and it is also used by the call center agents themselves internally to organizations so they can get quick answers to customer questions as well. So to look at this in practice, what exactly does a virtual agent do? You can see here that there's many ways for customers to ask a question, and that's step one. A virtual agent will take those questions and map those to a core question, which you can see in step two. Enterprise virtual agents are then able to take that one right answer and deliver it to the customer through the channel of the. Now, although that's a great leap forward for organizations, there is just a trove of data being collected through these self-service channels, and virtual agents are able to analyze those millions of customer questions that are being asked. What that allows you to do is map that customer journey to really understand and look at themes about what your customers, about what's top of mind. It's amazing voice of the customer data. So just some examples here of what you're able to do with a proper voice of the customer analysis through these self-service channels. You can look at those insights. You're able to drill down. This is our specific solution called Voices that allows us to do this. Just wanted to share a few screenshots here. With us, we're able to take those millions of customer questions and put those into a visualized format. Here you see the different themes. Larger bubbles indicate that it's a bigger presence in terms of the customer questions that are being asked. And you can then drill down. Here you can look at trends. What is increasing? What is decreasing? You're able to sort the data to look for trends in terms of products or concerns your customers. And you can drill down to individual questions. You may find a theme. Maybe it's an issue with a product or a certain customer service inquiry that you're curious about. And you can drill down from those millions of questions to very granular levels if need be. You can also look at that customer journey. So you can identify certain journeys where customers may ask 3 or 4 questions in a row to fully understand that process that the customer is taking, and then you can take action. So you may update your website, or you may include more product information when you ship if you're a retailer to make sure that customers are getting their issues addressed. So these deep customer journeys and the insights are very powerful to understand that process that the customer takes when they engage with you. So an organization that's doing this very well in terms of optimizing the digital self-service is Optus, which is the second largest telecom organization in Australia and a customer of ours. Optus deployed our virtual agent technology across the web, mobile, and social media channels, letting their customers self-serve through the channel of their choice. And additionally, they deployed our virtual agent technology in the contact center, allowing their agents to ask questions in natural language format, avoiding them having to sort through complicated CRM systems or brochures. They were able to ask questions in a very similar format to as you would on the web, get that one right answer, communicate it to the customer, and allow them to move on their day. And this is just a quick screenshot here. They've also deployed our Voices technology where they can analyze those millions of customer questions being asked. So what everyone cares about is the results. So what happened after deploying this virtual agent technology? Well, for Optus, you can see here that their phone and email support requests dropped from 84% of those interactions down to 24%. And the use of self-service increased from 16 to 65% once they installed a pleasant virtual agent and optimized digital technology for their customers. This has helped them become more competitive in the market, reduce costs, and reduce customer effort. This is a key part of the strategy as they compete in the Asia-Pacific region. So, I've been moving pretty quickly here. I know a lot of this may be new to some folks, so I wanted to conclude with really basic and straightforward reasons why you should care about self-service, the topic of today, and why you may want to take a deeper dive specifically at virtual agent technology. So number one, your peers are doing it. So the market for virtual agent technology is growing at 30% a year, and the market expected to reach $2 billion by 2019. So you can see here, organizations are seeing results, and they're starting to double down and invest more in virtual agent and self-service technology. The second reason is this is what your customers want. This is some research from Forrester, and 2/3 of customers prefer to use self-service and virtual agent technology over the phone. So if that is your primary method in terms of customer support, you're going to be left behind by organizations that are adopting a digital and self-service strategy. And finally, the third reason, something that we all care about and something that our jobs and our success at our organizations is that dollar factor, is the cost of providing support. And with enterprise self-service technology, with some of the vendors that are on the call today, you're able to reduce those support costs dramatically. And you can see there just what you're looking at in terms of the difference between call center, email, and self-service transactions. So I hope those three reasons are powerful enough to start to do a bit more of a deep dive for those who've joined us today. And if you'd like to learn more specifically about virtual agent technology, you'll reach out to us. I'd be happy to give you a more robust demo of the solution, and we can do an analysis of your website as well to understand where a virtual agent may be able to help you assist your customer self-serve. Thanks very much, and David, I will turn things back over to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Tim. Now let's pass the event over to Robert Francis, Solution Architect of Customer Engagement Solutions at NICE Systems. Welcome to the webinar, Robert.
Thank you, David. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about customer journeys. We see really analyzing customer journeys as a central point of really understanding how do we best interact with customers. So NICE Systems has a very rich history in the call center, and so because we support so many call centers in terms of the recording software as well as the workforce optimization side, they keep asking us, how can we provide a better customer experience, and second, how can we reduce cost in the call center because the cost of service is so high. And so since then, we started more and more looking at how do our customers are demanding to look at an omnichannel view of the customer interactions. So let me start talking about the customer journey. So when you look at the customer journey, it really is a complex journey that lots of customers interact across multiple channels. And, for example, in this case, if we look at the web interaction here, highlighted in the yellow ball with the globe, we have to understand every interaction within that web interaction, but we have to, in order to understand the context, we need to understand what happened actually before and what happens after. So did this web interaction actually result in a resolution, or did it actually result in another call, like in this example? And where did they come from, so that we understand? And where they come from means the behavioral data as well as the transactional data. Did they just recently buy a phone, for example, and therefore they came to the web, so that we understand it's probably a device issue that it's related to. So we do a survey every couple of years, a consumer survey, and we found out that the average customer interacts with 5.8 channels. So that's important to realize that your customers are already engaging in multiple channels, and the expectations are getting higher and higher in terms of being served seamlessly across those channels. So what are some of the business challenges to meet those high customer expectations? So first of all, the customers demand know my story. So today there's little visibility and data sharing across all the various data points, and we see this more and more that, for example, the web team doesn't want to share data with the call center team or vice versa. So today, even though the data can be integrated, it's a big challenge organization as well as technically it's not that easy either, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Second one is they want to have an immediate resolution to the solution, and today this becomes more and more challenging because of the interaction complexity. I start maybe looking on the web, then ultimately started the chat session, and then they tell me, actually, I have to call in for this particular problem because they have to run some more diagnostics. So it becomes more and more difficult. And the third one is that make it really effortless, and this really goes back to customer effort. Today most people have a limited. They don't proactively reach out to the customer when they know, for example, here I can prevent your next call because this is going to be your next problem. And last, it's about making it relevant. Today services are rarely contextual and personal, so I come to the website and I see our questions, even though the company already knows that I'm on this particular device and I had these kinds of issues before, so bring up these kinds of knowledge articles before the other ones. So we did a study in terms of that, we saw that 74% of customers experience challenges when switching channels. And so really, we know that they interact across all of those channels, but one of the big challenges is how do we make it seamless for people? So we can see some of the top reasons why people think it's challenging is that it can really slow down the resolution process because I have to retell my story over and over again. There's multiple reps at a time. The data is not integrated, and therefore I have to repeat all the information. All the information and the actions and history don't transfer across all the channels. I might not have the information available. So for example, this is typically when you're on the web, it's much easier to copy and paste maybe some of the serial numbers into a web chat, whereas when I'm on the phone, then I might not have all that information. So it becomes more challenging for the customer to look up all the information that the agent requires. So let's talk about the customer journey opportunity. So if we really master the customer journey opportunity, that gives us the following benefit. First, we provide a branded journey, so a really consistent journey, a consistent experience across all the channels. Second, we can focus on journeys that matter most. So if we look at all the interactions that customers do, can we find those interactions or those omnichannel interactions that are really most challenging and address those first? So it's important to understand, for example, to focus on call reason or contact reason, to find those that are most challenging. Maybe it's related to a particular device, and we can proactively send emails to customers or call them up to resolve that issue. Third, efficiently handle every interaction. So really provide every channel with all the information, all the history that historically has happened, and maybe also predictive scoring of what most likely the intent and what the problem is. And last, really influence the channel choice. So if we really understand our customers and we know they prefer the web, then we can actually keep sending them back to the web with relevant content, and they keep coming back to the web. So we prevent the calls into the call center, for example, which are much more expensive. So now let's talk a little bit about what NICE Systems provides in the space. So we have our NICE customer engagement solutions that are really focused around this customer journey. So what does it require to have a customer engagement solutions to be ready for every journey? So first, you have to really know your customers. You have to understand them end to end. Second, you need to be able to act in real time because customers are not patient. You might have only few minutes or seconds in order to keep the customer on the web and provide them with relevant content in order to prevent the call into the call center, for example. And third, really you need to engage your employees in the various channels so that they service the customers in the best possible way. So let's look at that in more detail. So first, let me give you an example of how we improve customer satisfaction and reduce churn. So we have a customer who hasn't logged into his account for a long time. We realize that based on looking at the web analytics data. He has also mentioned a competitor name on the last call that we were able to stitch together between the web information and the call center data. Then we saw that they gave some negative feedback on one of the services that we actually rolled out. So what do we do in terms of acting? We proactively contact the customer with personalized offers. So we can do that through the channel that's maybe most relevant to that customer. In this case, we actually give a call to that customer, but we guide the agent through the interaction. We give them guidance of what most likely the problem is and what the best solution to that process is. Then we tailor a self-service interaction based on real-time insights. So in this case, we maybe trigger an email that they ultimately then can resolve that problem, register maybe the new service, or check out the information about that new and improved product. And last, we really need to engage our employees by identifying retention best practices. So we look at our agents and see which agents actually have the highest retention rate or are best at resolving particular issues related to certain issues. And then extend really that knowledge across the organization by coaching, and then applying gamification to focus those employees on customer satisfaction performance. So this becomes an important item that we see in more of our customers. That gamification is actually a really important factor to improve the customer satisfaction, because our agents are more involved, and every agent is competitive compared to their colleagues. So how do we look at this in terms of customer journeys? Here's a screenshot of our customer engagement analytics that we look at. So first of all, we might want to look at all the journeys and understand which journeys are most relevant. Where are some of the main problems? So in this case, we look at a view where we look at all the journeys for a certain period of time, and look at each where those interactions started. So for example, the blue box up there, the second one, tree, tells us all the interactions that started with web interactions. So the second part that's really important for us is that we look at repeat contact interactions. It's important to look at contact reasons, because it's important whether a person has a repeat interaction for the same reason or a different reason. In this case, we filtered actually on different reasons. So maybe we're looking at how can we prevent that next call or that next contact so the customer effort is lower. And so in this case, we can see, for example, those web interactions. There's quite a bit of repeat web interactions that ultimately result in some social media interactions. But what's maybe more concerning is that we see there's a number of call interactions and an increase actually by 12%. And so these seem to all come from ultimately, initially, some web interactions. So we might want to look at these a little bit further to understand why are some of these web interactions driving this increase in call volume. And so then we might want to drill down. To give you an example here, we're actually looking at one customer in particular, in this case David King, and we look at his particular journey, which really started on the web. He had a problem with a billing inquiry. Ultimately, that didn't resolve the issue, and he then actually went to contact the call center, and they resolved the issue by changing his plan. And shortly after, he called back into the call center because there was still a billing inquiry. Obviously, there was some problem that it was maybe not fixed, and the result of that the customer actually churned and canceled his plan. So if we understand these kinds of particular journeys where maybe agents are giving the wrong recommendations for the plan, then we can fix those problems very easily, understand how often, obviously quantify how often this is happening. So this is an example of, really focus on the cross omnichannel journeys that actually matter. In this case, maybe this would be one of the relevant ones. So obviously one important thing about when you look at customer journeys is to establish some key performance indicators, because ultimately that's the easiest way how you can communicate success or failure up in the management chain, and also how you measure employees. So in this case, the most important measures that we typically see is obviously containment rates, but containment rates are not as easy as you sometimes think about it. It's not only whether there's a resolution, but you might want to look at, for example, even after a web resolution, it looks like there was a web resolution, did this person actually call in within 48 or 72 hours back into the call center about the same issue? And maybe the issue was not resolved. So really you need to look at the omni-channel interactions to really understand, do we truly get containment within a channel? The other important key performance indicators we look at is obviously customer satisfaction, to really see, for particular customers, what customers are more likely to be satisfied by served in each of the individual channels. And last, it's really about customer effort, which is this dashboard in the bottom left, where we compare customer effort according to what channel they interacted with, what devices they're currently on, or maybe any demographics data. What's the customer age? How long have they been a customer? What kind of plan are they? So that we understand how big is the customer effort accordingly. And so once we understand all this data, then we can really take some action to deploy that. So to kind of summarize this, so we said the three most important things is really know your customer, and you've already seen how to do all this analysis on it. We really need some cross-channel analytics solutions. Second, we need to act in real time. So we have a real-time solution that allows us to really make a decision for a customer with a propensity of intent, a propensity for the next best offer within 50 milliseconds, which really allows us to deploy that real-time solution into any of the channels, whether it's a web solution or a chat or a contact center. And last, we need to engage our employees by using workforce optimization solutions. So really integrate how the employees are incented, how the performance is reviewed, and also how they can best service the customer, and how they stay motivated by something like gamification, for example. So to wrap it up, it's really nice to really think about that delivering effortless, consistent, personalized experience has to happen across the entire customer journey. Even though today a lot of our customers start with a call center, it's really across all the channels, and it becomes incredibly important for us. So if you have any further questions, please send me an email, or you can also reach out on Twitter. So with that, I'm going to hand it over back to David.
All right, so my first question goes to Robert. Robert, where do you see the main challenges in analyzing omnichannel data to provide a better web self-service experience?
Thank you, David. So I think the key challenges, as in every organization, first is to really get the data, and that typically involves a little bit of an understanding what is the business goal. So you have to build a little bit of a business case. Typically what we often do is we ask for a sample of the data. Can you give us maybe 3 months of the data? We do some analysis and actually come back with what would be the benefits of that data. And that typically gives a strong enough case for that business owner of that other data to provide an ongoing feed of that data. The second part, which is really probably the biggest challenge, is how do you connect all this data? In particular, when you think about the web data, which is largely anonymous data, how do you connect that to authenticated data like the call center data, which typically mostly is authenticated because people give their account number? And so what we do is we have basically an ability to do identity graphing, where we basically connect data as a core occurrence happens. So even though a user is maybe 95% of the time anonymous, if they log in once at a particular time, then we actually associate that anonymous cookie ID with the account number, and then going forward, all interactions for that cookie ID can be retroactively associated and identified. And then the third problem is really that you need to somehow serialize the data into a time series, because it's important to understand what events happened at what time and in what time order. So those are probably some of the largest challenges that I see with omnichannel data.
And Robert, regarding omnichannel, an omnichannel initiative, what would you say is the best strategy for starting off with an omnichannel initiative?
So typically, I think usually you want to start small. So what we often see, obviously, is a lot of people are interested in the call center data because of high cost per call. So you start with that, and then combine that maybe with the web data as a starting point, because web data typically is relatively easy to get, because if you, for most large companies on Adobe, you can just get a feed dump for like 6 months for web data. And then we basically have built-in adapters that consume that data automatically from Adobe. And then ultimately, we we then connect that data to see, what web pages, for example, are causing the most calls into the call center, and what are the call reasons that are happening. So once you build a case about 2 channels, then you can slowly expand. In particular, if you start with too many sources, there's just too many stakeholders, and it will take just too long to drive a success. You want to drive a very quick success with like 1 or 2, 2 or 3 channels that are important and that drive some significant business value.
All right, great. Thanks, Robert. Let's bring Tim into the discussion. Tim from IntelliResponse. Tim, you talked about virtual agents. Can you talk about how they might play a role in lowering customer effort?
Hi, David. Yeah, absolutely. I think the way to think about that is going back to the data I shared about, where your customers are starting off. The majority would like to self-serve. They want to go to your corporate website, get that quick answer, and move on with their day. So looking at through that lens, how can you enable that? What type of self-service tools can you use to really strengthen that self-service support apparatus on your website? I think that can have a dramatic effect on the customer effort. And a statistic we like to share here in office is that the majority of people are still on your site when they're calling into your contact center. So really try and help them through that initial channel, and I think that'll have a tremendous impact in terms of reducing customer effort.
All right, thanks for that. And another question for you, Tim. How do virtual agents handle customer service escalations?
Yeah, great question, David. Virtual agents do a great job handling those tier 1 repetitive type questions, and you want to keep those out of the contact center. Generally, consumers want to self-serve and get that quick answer for those type of tier 1 questions. They don't want to speak with a live representative in the contact center. But there will be times when there are those tier 2 or tier 3 type questions that are high value, and they really need to go and be handled by a live agent in your contact center. And so what we recommend you look for when evaluating all of these self-service tools is that you don't want to have the customer start over again. So start to look for technology that will pass that session history in this omni-channel environment through those different channels. So in the case of a virtual agent, technology like IntelliResponse will allow that session history, the questions that the customer's already asked, that data can flow through to the different environments. For example, if the consumer wants to escalate to a live chat, the agent isn't having to start from scratch, which can be really frustrating to the customer. They see the questions, that history that the customers ask, and then can build on that to assist the customer. So make sure that that data can flow through to appropriate escalation channels from the virtual agent. That's what I'd recommend.
All right, great, thanks. Let's bring Chris Hall from Transversal into the discussion. Chris, you talked about mobile apps. Can you self-service on mobile apps? Can you or do you provide self-service solutions designed specifically for mobile apps?
So there's 2 approaches there, David. One approach is you want it for free, and we're seeing that a lot with retailers. So in the retail industry, if you haven't seen any of the statistics that happened over the holiday period, but retailers are tracking pretty closely what's happening and where people are making e-commerce purchase on smart tablets and mobile devices. So a lot of our leading retailers are moving to a dynamic environment to get the application there for free. Not for free, but a device-independent strategy. How do I deploy a web-based web self-service solution in a device-independent, leveraging some of the responsive technology I showed you here today? That wouldn't be be kind of disingenuous if we tried that same approach in an authenticated environment, such as a banking app or maybe an insurance app. I'm in the app itself. I'm logged in, and I don't want the app, because I'm logged in, I'm security, I'm looking at my banking information. I don't feel too comfortable bouncing out of that particular mobile app going into a browser environment. In this case, we have direct mobile APIs that allows them to stay in that app. At this case, they're probably segmenting some of their knowledge and probably deploying a separate interface just specifically for that app so it doesn't behave outside that perspective. So not a simple answer, but hopefully comprehensive enough that made sense.
All right, thanks, Chris. It looks like we have time for one more question for you. And the question reads, in the foreseeable future, do you believe mobile can overtake the more established mediums altogether, or just the utility of computer laptop?
Wow. Go to dinner with your kids and look around. Anybody talking to these days? David, I know we're not young guys, and I'm not sure the age of my colleagues here on the phone, but great job today. It's going mobile. It has to go mobile. I mean, you walk around in the office, everyone's on a tablet. No doubt. I'm not sure when, but if mobile's not part of your strategy today, you're already behind the 8 ball. So I do believe so, David.
All right, great. Thanks for that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. We apologize that we were unable to answer all the questions, but as I stated earlier, all questions will be answered via email. I'd like to thank everyone who did submit questions for doing that, and I'd like to also thank everyone for watching our program. I'd also like to thank our speakers today, Tim Peters, Director of Marketing at IntelliResponse, Robert Frankus, Solution Architect of Customer Engagement Solutions at NICE Systems, and Chris Hall, Chief Marketing Officer at Transversal.